Today we're going to be taking a look at some cards that I cross-graded from CGC trading cards to PSA. We're going to take a look at the value increase, the value decrease, if there was one, if the grades went up, or if they went down. Let's go ahead and let's get started. The very first card that I cross-graded from CGC to PSA was this really nice 20th anniversary CP6 Charizard holographic card. The original base set artwork. This actually came back from CGC in a near mint to mint 8. It had a 7.5 on the surface grade. As you guys can see, that surface is absolutely beautiful. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think that deserved a 7.5 surface from CGC? Really nice swirl right there as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back here. This is a really clean card, and this is why I cracked open the CGC slab and resent this back into PSA. Because when I resent it back into PSA, it actually got a Gem Mint 10 because this was such a clean card. And I'm not sure what was going on with CGC, why it got that 7.5 on the surface. It could be because of the little white streaks in the back here. They could have mistaken those for scratches. I'm not really sure. This is a beautiful card. The raw version of this card, if you were to try and buy it on eBay or other buying sites right now, you would be looking at spending $70 to $75. The CGC 8 that this actually was originally graded actually sells under the raw price. The CGC 8 last sold price was like $60, which is hilarious. A PSA 9 copy of this card, so if it would have just bumped up one grade, it would have sold for between $120 to $150. In a PSA 10, this card last sold for $340, and all of the other listings are right around that $340 to $350 price tag. I just can't get over how good this card looks. I cannot believe that it got a CGC 8. So far, it looks like PSA does grade a little bit more lenient, or they just have better graders in general, because honestly, there's no way that that should have gotten an 8 surface. I do not see anything wrong with this surface whatsoever. This came out of the 20th anniversary CP6 booster box. Those have actually started to creep up in price. So I see the PSA 10 copies of this being one of the main chase cards out of the set for obvious reasons. This is going to continue to rise in price, in my opinion, with the CP6 booster box sitting around $1,500 right now, and it's going up all the time. With the bump from a CGC 8 to a PSA 10 with this card, that is a $280 difference in the possible price value that this could be sold for, which is absolutely crazy. One card, $280 difference. It's absolutely crazy. Imagine if you did tens or hundreds of these a day. Man, you could make a lot of money crossing some of these cards right now, especially Charizard cards. It's highly unlikely that you're going to get a CGC 8 to cross to a 10 regularly, but there's always a chance. We're going to put that back here just because it is such a beautiful card. We do have a few more cards here. The next card that we cross-graded, we actually cross-graded this Glaceon VMAX, mainly because the 10 and 9.5 subgrades, I really thought that this had a shot at getting the PSA 10, and I wanted to find out if I could cross-grade CGC 9s to PSA 10s and kind of what subgrades to look for. So we have a 9 centering, 9 corners, and the 10 surface and the 9.5 edges. And right now this card sitting in its raw state is selling for right around $120. Some of them are going for a little bit higher depending on how good they look and if they could possibly be graded. The CGC 9 that this was originally graded as sells right now for right around $110, a little bit less than the raw price, believe it or not. A PSA 9 sells for right around $180, so it is about a $70 increase for just that one card. So it is a $70 increase just between the two grading companies, which shows you that the value of CGC and PSA is still not even close. PSA has a much higher value because it does have a much higher demand. The PSA 9 copies of this, like I said, sell for right around $180. PSA 10 copies of this sell for close to $300. So if we could get this to cross from a CGC 9 to a PSA 10, we'd be looking at close to a $190 difference. Let's take a look and see. Got the Mint 9, PSA Mint 9, which is perfectly fine. Still a $70 increase from that CGC 9 price, which is just absolutely wild. So the CGC 9 did not cross to a PSA 10 in this circumstance. Let's take a little bit closer look at this. It does have a pretty heavy nick right there in the corner. As you guys can see, that probably held it back quite a bit. There's also a small little white dot right there. The centering isn't great, but the front does look really good. It could be just because it does have the two different white specks right there. Normally when you have multiple of the same problem, PSA does end up knocking that down. If there would have only been one white dot, I could see this card easily getting a PSA 10, even with that questionable centering. All right, this is actually the most important card that we cross-graded. We actually cross-graded this Blue Shock Red Flash promo card. This is a Japanese promo card that was sent in a 1-card pack with the booster boxes of Blue Shock Red Flash. English versions of that, I do believe, are XY Breakthrough with the Secret Rare Mewtwo cards in it. Really, really popular set in Japan. The cards from the Japan set look so good. The holo pattern on it, as you can tell, it's got a similar holo pattern to this card, which just looks really, really good. The subgrades on this were a 9 for centering. Surface was 10. We had a 9.5 for corners, and the edges were a 9. This card in its raw state sells for right around $230. A CGC 9 copy last sold for $230. So it's not much of a difference if you get it in a 9, which is why we wanted to try and cross grade this one specifically. A PSA 9 last sold for $300. And the PSA 10 value of this card is just kind of all over the place. There's one that's listed for $1,200, but all of the other copies are listed over $2,000. So if that one copy were to sell at $1,200, there would only be copies of this card selling for $2,000. And you know what? I would honestly list this card at $2,000 because it would still be the lowest priced once that really, really low listing sells. Let's see what we got. I'm actually really, really nervous for this. Yeah, I did get the Gem Mint 10. I really, really did expect this one to come back with the Gem Mint 10 just because of that surface being a 10, the corners being 9.5. The edges being a 9 kind of worried me a little bit. But when you look at the card, the only thing that's really noticeably wrong with it is you can tell it's a little bit off-centered. But PSA does have a more lenient grading process when it comes to centering. So I wasn't too worried about that. Other than that, it looks absolutely perfect in my opinion. I was kind of surprised that it got the Mint 9. One of those other subgrades could have easily been a 9.5, bringing the total grade up to a 9.5, which would have been a more realistic grade for this card in my opinion. Absolutely crazy. So based on the current listings, there's not a lot of these out there. This is an extremely, extremely rare card. There's just not a lot of these that exist. And the ones that do exist that are graded as 10s are all listed for over $2,000. So realistically, the value of this is a positive $1,800. If you go with the lower priced card that's sitting at about $1,200 to $1,300 on eBay right now, it's still a $1,000 difference between grading it with CGC versus PSA. CGC 9 last sold $230. PSA 10, the lowest listed is $1,200, and all of the other ones are over $2,000. Absolutely crazy. Between these two cards right here, a possible profit difference of $2,000 or more dollars just off these two cards. It's absolutely crazy how much money you can make cross-grading cards from PSA to CGC if the grades do increase. With the Glaceon VMAX, obviously that did not increase. I did send in one more card. I really, really like this Dragonite GX. It's just one of my personal favorite cards. There's no monetary value for this card to be regraded. I think the raw copies of this are sitting right around $15 or so. PSA 9 copy of this would sell for $50, and a PSA 10 would sell for about $80. It's not super valuable, but I did want to see on the Surface 9 if we could get that to cross to a PSA 10, because to me this looked basically perfect. The centering looks perfect. The corners and edges are all super, super clean. It just looks like a really, really clean card, but I wanted to see if that CGC 9 Surface would cross to a Gem Mint 10, and it did, which is awesome. So a CGC 9 would probably sell for right around $20 for this card. The lower CGC grades right now in most modern cards, I would consider Sun and Moon era still to be in the modern era. There's just no value in grading these cards right now. There's just so many of them that are getting graded and getting like the 8s and 9s. Even the 10s are under $100. It's not really worth it unless you get the 10, and the risk involved, it's just easier to just leave that alone, obviously. But this is one of my favorite cards. I did want to get this cross-graded to a PSA slab to add to the collection. Beautiful card. So happy that it came back as a PSA 10. Let me know what you guys think about cross-grading cards from CGC to PSA. Do you guys think it's worthwhile, or do you guys think that I just got extremely lucky? I think I might have got extremely lucky, especially with these two cards here. Let me know. I do appreciate you checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one.